the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
Welcome, everybody, to Moorish Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka El-Bey, and this evening, our special guest will be Dr. Alim Bey. And we're going to be talking about a great deal of important information. Dr. Alim Bey is an East Baldwin High School student in Elizabethtown, New Jersey. He received his diploma Fayetteville State University at Fayetteville, North Carolina, on religion, minored in history, African studies, instructed in the arts of Sufi healing, herbalist student, received an honorary doctorate of divinity, and was ordained minister under the Holy Tabernacle Ministries. He's a publisher, a writer, and Megadon magazine. He's a writer of the Megadon magazine. He's also a Qigong instructor, planet healer, natural health consultant, a student at Stratford Career Institute. Received an associate doctorate of divinity in January 2002. Ordained minister under the Universal Life Church, ordained minister under the Progressive Church of Life, and many, many other things. He's a Reiki master teacher in traditional UC Reiki healing system. He's a licensed neuropathic writer and author of several articles for Frontline Magazine. Ordained Grand High Priest under the Indigenous Cosmic Golden Ray Order of Melchizedek. Now, that's just some of the background of Dr. Alim Bey, but he will be coming on. He'll be our special guest this evening, and keep in mind that the phone lines will be open a little bit later on, and in order to dial into the broadcast, you simply press 310-982-4184. That's 310-982-4184. If you have a question or comment for our guest, press 1. But in the meantime, we request that you make sure there's no background noise and that we can hear you loud and clear. Okay? Let's see. Okay, I got it. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's see what we got here. And okay. All right. We just let's see if this is my guest. Dr. Alim Bey, are you there?
Yes, I am. Peace.
Okay, my brother, we got you now. We got you.
All right.
Peace, man. Have you back in the house, man. We're glad to hear from you again.
Appreciate you. I appreciate you bringing me back on for the Tarhaka.
All right, now you got to have me over there to your house, man. And
all right, no problem. Sure, we can have you on the week after next, which is right after Dr. Walter Williams.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad you connected with him because I managed to get back with the brother, and he had the number wrong, but we straightened that out so we can get with you. But all you got to do is just let me know, man, and I'll be more than happy to come on and give my spiel. Well, I've read your bios to the people, and but I'm pretty sure they would like to you to bring us up to speed, because I didn't mention the herbal teas and stuff because I've seen that over there. But could you give us a little background personally, and that way we can get on down into this thing.
All right. Well, I graduated sociology. So I'm a sociologist as well as also a metaphysician, a historian, an Afro-centristic teacher, as well as a Moor. Also indigenous. We deal with indigenous affairs. We deal with international law. We deal with national politics. Body politics, and and everything else in which that can help bring about uplifting humanity, as we would say, because we know that humanity has fallen. That's apparent. So our job is to put things back in another direction. One of the revealers of light, as is mentioned within the Holy Quran, Circle 7, as well as also the herbalists. We have our own website, www.dralim.com, in which that we deal with all alternative healing methods, as we see that there's a relevance in keeping ourselves healthy and mobile, while we're doing the damn thing, as they would say. And we have new products now, which is herbal line of products, as well as also teas. So those that are interested, go to www.dralim.com/ancestral herbs and teas.
Okay. Well, now, I have one question that I've been dying to ask you for long. You got to give us a breakdown on exactly what is metaphysics and how does that thing?
Metaphysics is nothing more than African spirituality. As I was having a conversation with Dr. Walter Williams just yesterday, he was speaking about how Socrates didn't exist, Plato, Euripides, Aristotle, all of these are imaginary characters, such as they have us believing, even, Jesus, in the story of the Jesus character, in particular the blonde hair, blue eyes, the pale skin. But yet, even though Revelation, the first chapter, the 13th through the 15th verse, tells us otherwise, that if it was anyone in the image and after the likeness of God and was God's son, it had to be someone with woolly hair, feet as if it was burnt in a furnace, as well as also a voice of many waters. Like, sure, you're right. All right. So, even with the depiction, it directly contradicts the biblical image. So we know that if God exists within each and every one of us, and we exalt ourselves to the highest heights, which is to the crown chakra, we take on the characteristics of the Christ, or Michael, the archangel, or Melchizedek, as he is also referred to as. So we become after the order of Melchizedek. So metaphysics deal with African spirituality. So that's really what it is African spirituality. And what we mean by African, we're talking about in its most plain, sensible terminology, coming from ancient Kemet or Temeri, which deals with Afu, which means body or temple, flesh, and of course, Ra means sun, light, as well as Ka means spirit. So Your physical body is the spiritual. Your spiritual soul dwells within the physical body, or the spiritual soul in its temple, as God said within 1 Corinthians, the 3rd chapter, the 16th verse. Do ye not know that your body is the temple of God? So Africa means that particular phrase, the body of God.
Okay. Well, now the reason I'm asking you these questions because, in my opinion, I think we've been dealing with the physical too long. It's time for us to start dealing with our spiritual powers, and in order for us to do that, because I'm a firm believer that if you have a golf ball size consciousness, you can only have a golf ball size awareness and understanding. And so what we have to do is expand our consciousness and to the point, and meaning that we have to become aware of more things so that we can expand our understanding. And so far, I think we've done a magnificent. First thing we had to do was stop all these folks from lying. That's the first thing we had to do. We had to get that straightened out because they had us going with the Plato and Socrates and Aristotle and Jesus and all these things. And I'm like, okay, if we got Plato, Socrates, and Aristotle, and then we got Stanley Lane Poole clearly telling us in the Moors in Spain that as early as the 10th century, Europeans was ignorant. So if they were ignorant in the 10th century, how is it that they supposed to have gave us all of this knowledge way back when with Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato? Then,
well,
on top of that,
real simple.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say it's real simple. Number one, Walter Williams specifically tells us within, the historical origin of Christianity, that the first Europeans didn't come into Egypt and come into any particular role, such as on the throne, which came by way allegedly right after the Persians invaded Alexander the so-called Fake, and his general by the name of Lago, Ptolemy Lago, or the Ptolemies or the Ptolemies as they're also referred to as, and he became the first, in which that wasn't until after 332 AD. Now, when we're talking about Aristotle, if couldn't have been a European anyway, because he was 52 years before Lagos. So we know that those who dwelt within the Grecian lands at that time was called the Minoans. All right, the Minoans or the Cretes or the Cretans.
Okay.
Now the word Minoan is an actual Egyptian word, a Kemetic word, in which that means they are the followers of men, which is a form of Amen, as in Amen-Ra later on, which means the hidden force. So Amen was also the fertility deity or nature, in which that any time in which that a couple wanted to become impregnated and have children, they would go to men, and men oftentimes you would see him with the phallus sticking, out, with an erection, symbolizing the resurrection of life, in which that couple you would see them go to men as a form of worship, because the phallus symbol is what determines the particular sex of the child, male or female. So that is still today the case. So what we really are seeing is nothing more than symbolism being played out, through our acknowledgement of the reproductive process. And so not that our men actually existed, you know what I'm saying, even though it exists as the men, hence the word men, you know, come from men. Hence we are called men.
Right,
we're the ones we're the ones who have the ability in order to resurrect life. In other words, to shoot forth shu or tefnut, which is air or moisture, which symbolizes those children who was produced from Atum, in which that we get Adam in the Bible. So, you know, we know that Aristotle could not have been, quote unquote, a European because his history is more than 52 years before Lagos came in which that Walter Williams states that was the first European, in which that came in and got initiated into the ancient mystery school. Now, we know that that out of the so-called people that they mentioned, Plato, out of the 40-year system in which that they are supposed to have gone through, Plato only did 24 years. So he never completed the system. Aristotle never completed the system. Euripides never completed the system. So Socrates never completed the system. None of them completed the system if we're going to go by historical accounts.
Right.
So that means that they can't possibly know the complete system they didn't know the complete system to take into Europe to begin with in order to give them. That's why they were still in a state of darkness until the Moors came, really, in order to produce what is called the Renaissance era. And that was after the invasion, or as they would say, of the Moors into Spain and Portugal, which was 711 AD.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, what I'm looking at is I did a personal investigation on Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates. And what I wanted to look at is, okay, you have been given credit for writing thousands of volumes of information, everything under the sun. So when I start looking at what I want to know is, okay, what was life for you when you was a kid? But what I found out, I don't find out any background information about where they were born, what area, what it was like. But and then I found, according to the time period that all of this information that was supposed to be written as supposed to occur, the people in the region that they were supposed to be in was in constant turmoil, war, violence, burning, murdering, and killing. So I'm trying to figure out how is it possible for you to read a book, let alone write one, with all of that going on around you. So everything for me involving these characters spells one thing: impossible. Then we got the Jesus thing. You want to give a breakdown on that?
Yeah, well, you know that Jesus, the name comes from the composite character of the Grecian and the Roman deities, Jupiter, and Zeus. Jew and Zeus became Jesus. All right, it's based and then Peter becomes his what? Right hand man. So Jupiter and Zeus. Jesus becomes Jesus, and Peter becomes the right hand man of Jesus. You know, that's how it's read right there in the New Testament. You know, Jesus said he would make Peter a fisherman of men, and he will also build the church upon his information and knowledge, exposing Jesus to be the Christ. All of that is, you know, symbolic. All that is symbolic. Jesus actually symbolizes the spermatozoa, which is the sperm or the ejaculation. Hence the reason why it's a symbol of the fish, not just because it was Pisces during the Piscean age of 2,000 years ago. or the start of the Piscean age of 2,000 years ago, which are the two fish. Hence, Jesus fed the multitude of 5,000 with two fish, which is talking about the age of Pisces. So we seeing all the symbology is there on astrotheology, but we also are seeing it even at a physical point as what holds the physical body together. What composes the physical body? It's the breath. Without the breath, you decompose. With the breath, you are composed. Hence, you can become calm. Hence, the raging waters is the emotions, getting upset and angry and frustrated and disappointed. And with the breath, you can calm that down. You don't have to hyperventilate yourself over a situation or a problem. That was the whole symbology of Jesus being out there on the water, and who he tells to come and walk on the water with him. Oh, it's Peter. Hence, again, you have that Jupiter thing over and over again as it's told. So we know Jesus' Aramaic or Old Hebrew name is Yeshua. Shu. Shu is the ancient Kemetic for the breath of life, which is the air that we breathe. All right? That breath of life is what holds our physical composition together. It's the breath. So when you sneeze, you say what? Yeshu, which it happens to be the same name as Jesus in Aramaic and Old Hebrew. Now, how is that possible? Oh, I tell you, because the ancients hid it within the very breath in which that you breathe. That if you really wanted to know, you had to do nothing more than look at yourself. That you are the Jesus or the Yeshua. All right? Hence is the sneeze in which that you do. That's the word made flesh. It's talking about the sound in which that keeps your physical body together. All right? So Jesus is based on a old Gnostic tale of the physical body and its composition and the breath in which that determines the lowest self to the highest self, which merges the lowest self in the highest self. Hence, when we are asked within the 101s about the two selves, we know one is the lowest self and we know the other is the highest self, the mother of virtues. So we understand is that mother of virtues is Kundalini, which is the mother goddess principle within each and every one of us, that once it is raised beyond the heart chakra into what is called a trinity, which is your throat chakra, your third eye, and your crown chakra, you have now moved into the immortal body or the divine kingdom of God, or the kingdom of God as it is called within the Bible. So we understand that all of this is based on the spiritual / conscious expansion / physical body. In other words, in order for us to gain God consciousness, we must raise ourselves through the various levels of consciousness. So we talk about from interpersonal consciousness, intrapersonal consciousness to life consciousness, subconsciousness, superconsciousness, magnetic consciousness, and then finally at the crown chakra, infinite consciousness. That is where you can do like what the Old Testament said, that the prophet spoke to God face to face. Because the word prophet simply means one who can see. So now you can see God, which is nothing more than a reflection of the oneself. So this is what the whole tale is being told to us through these various scriptures, if we just sit down and really understand what is taking place. So Jesus is actually Shu, which if you actually take a trip to ancient Kemet or to Mary, you will actually see on the MOOR-ISH the image of Shu, and guess what? It's an image of a Moor, or i.e. so-called black man. So who has hair like lamb's wool, who has feet or skin as if it was burnt in a furnace. So that's no coincidence. The reason why the Bible had to put depict that depiction is because it's right on the walls of ancient Kemet or Tamari. So that's one aspect from the African spirituality aspect, or from the Mayatian aspect. Then we get also what we refer to as, the depiction in which they have given us, Serapis. During the Council of 3 25 AD, Constantine brought about 319 bishops. One was excommunicated by the name of Arian, and because of his disdain for them corrupting the Coptic belief system, which was inherently the same belief system as the ancient Kemites. They inherited their belief system from the Coptics, which is the Ethiopians or the Abyssinians, or as we refer to them as the Kush Moor, all right, people, all right? And so that belief system, we understood it as same as the Gnostics did later on, or the Nasirians, or the Essenes, later on, with the understanding that the Christ was within each and every one of us, and that through the breath of life, you exude, that Christ principle by mastery of the science of breath. That's how you raise to those various levels of consciousness and expand consciousness, But Constantine, with these particular Coptic, those who sold out, I guess you can say, decided that they would put a composite, this composite character into one image so that later on it can be worshipped worldwide. So hence you get Catholicism, in which that the word Catholic means universal, in which that, the so-called Pope sits at the head of Christ, in which that means basically that he's Christ until the real Christ returns. So he'll fake the funk until we come back into Christ consciousness and begin to start doing these particular miracles that the Christ is said to possess, which is speaking in tongues, interpreting tongues, miracles, healing, prophecy, faith, knowledge, understanding. All these are the 9 gifts or the 9 fruits of Christ mentioned within 1 Corinthians, the 12th chapter. Of course, we call them psychic abilities or siddhas, according to the Sanskrit teachings. That you develop these gifts once you activate and open your chakras or shankaras, or your ritus, that they also refer to as. So, the Kundalini is the South African terminology for the Kundalini.
Sound like you kind of breaking up a little bit. Sound like you kind of breaking up or got an echo or something. It's kind of difficult for me to make out what you're saying.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Okay, it kind of sounds the same.
You said it still sounds the same, Brother Tarhaka?
Say something else?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you good now.
Okay. All right.
Let me ask you this. How do we... What is the best way for us to go by using, open up these crown chakras and the different chakras that we have? How do we go about actually opening it up and using it? Because this time we're supposed to get busy using it. We know they're there.
Right. Well, the easiest way is first mastering the breath. Slow down your breath. Inhale deeply. Exhale longer. The more you do that, then you can take your attention to each area of where these particular chakras reside at. The first chakra, which is called the root-based chakra, is located in between the legs, and which that is called a perineum, in between the scrotum and the anus area of the male. Is the G-spot area within the female, in which that, in both regards, extends up to the sacral bone, which is at the base of the spine, which is right above the crack of the behind. That is the abode of the Kundalini. So you would actually set your attention at that area as you're breathing in and out for a long, deep period of time, and focus your attention at that area and visualize the color red. And you begin to breathe in and out through that particular chakra, activating it. Then you go to the navel chakra, which is the umbilical cord, which was once attached, you and your mother together. That belly button or that umbilical cord area that's been ruptured or separated now becomes the area of you receiving nutrients from cosmos, in which that about an inch behind, and some say about an inch or 2 down below the navel chakra is where you store prana or chi or chi energy at. This area you will visualize is orange as you breathe in and out. The next would be the solar plexus, which is between the ribs, down in the center of the bottom center of the chest and the center of the body or the torso. You would breathe yellow in and out. Then you would go to the heart, which is off center to the left side of the body, the color green or pink as the secondary color. And you would breathe in the color green or pink. It would be bright green. Next would be the throat chakra, which is sky blue. You would breathe in and out the color of the sky, all right, hence for communication. Then you would go to indigo, which is the third eye, which is about an inch above the eyebrows. Some say that it's between the eyebrows. It is, but it's about an inch up above it, which that you can breathe in what looks like the night sky, which is the color indigo. And then at the crown chakra, you can do violet or purple or white or gold, in which that symbolizes the region of enlightenment, in which that you can breathe through your crown chakra, that particular color. We know that a baby, when it's born, has a sore spot at the top of their head. And, you know, sometimes it looks like a crater. And then as the baby ages to the age of 7, that's when the head becomes hard or hardened. That particular area is called the finale. And the finale, once it's hard, now, you know, normally, you know, our grandmothers or mothers say, you know, sit your hard-headed ass down somewhere. Because actually our head has become hard. That's when we develop our own personality. And so we're now, you know, developing our personality. We're now, you know, seeing what we like and examining life. You know, we're seeing what works and what doesn't work. That's natural for a child, you know. So that particular area, right below that area is the pineal gland, which is the master gland or the master endocrine gland of the physical body. That is called the seat of the soul by the chorus. That area, when the reaches it, produces DMT, in which that, or piolene, which is substances in which that produces a LSD experience. It gives you the ability, you know, to communicate with your ancestors, or astral travel. Actually, we call it soul travel, soul projection, and, you know, many other things, as well as the gifts of spiritual awareness, expansion of the mind, as you were saying, the state of nirvana, as it is said within Buddhism, so forth and so on, Brother Tarhaka.
Now, how often should we do the breathing and mental positioning of the colors, concentrating on each chakra? Every day? Right,
that should be something done every day. Once to twice out the day is good. You know, any place that you can get to do 10 to 20 minutes of spiritual work, in particular 20 minutes out of the day, should not be asked much of a person to want to enlighten themselves. So 20 minutes is really a good number. As most people say, being that we're so busy nowadays, it's not like we just sitting around twiddling thumbs now. People working 8 hours, they have their children, have their husbands and wives, so forth, so on. They have debt, like what you're talking about, getting them out of.
Oh, yeah.
So
I think that's a big chakra.
Right. So they got a lot of stuff, a lot of issues, and normally the one that get damaged, that chakra that get damaged is that solar plexus chakra, Brother Tarhaka, especially dealing with debt and different things like that solar plex chakra take a hit, make you lose the zest for life, in which that soon develops within a lot of people, diabetes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now, tell me about that tea, man.
Okay.
I was looking at it and get a chance to read everything about it. Give us a breakdown on that.
Right. Well, we have 8 blends of teas, in which that it does what they say that it will do, in which that will alleviate most aches and pains, most problems, dealing with diabetes, high blood pressure, migraines, headaches, joint pains, problems with prostate gland, most problems with heart issues, brain issues, so it's a whole total body herbal healing. A lot of the herbs in which that we use are maca roots, ginkgo biloba, guadacola, burdock, alfalfa, cayenne pepper, many herbs. We have over 100 herbs, so a lot of these are special blends of the various herbs on which that when people do their research and study, they will see that it heals many ailments and prevent many ailments from occurring.
Okay.
And give you the body, give the body, the minerals and the nutrients and the vitamins that it needs. Okay.
All right. Well, now that's super. And how do they go about getting it? You want to give us your contact information or where they can go about getting that tea?
Yeah, they can give us a call at 910-364-9099. That's 910-364-9099.
Okay, I'm going to put that in the chat room so they can get that. Okay. 364 9099.
Right. Or they can go to the website, www.dralim.com.
Okay. All right. We got that in there. All right. It is 910-364-9099. That's how you can get the tea that the brother just described for us. Now, do you hold classes where people can practice on accessing their chakras and the energies and stuff? Do y'all hold those
definitely.
classes?
Yes, as a matter of fact, class is going to start January the 25th for alternative healing. For the law, January the 24th. So January the 24th for the law, 25th for the law, and January the 24th for the healing, alternative healing classes, in which that we have the herbology classes, irisology classes, qigong, tai chi, reiki, pranic healing, reflexology, acupressure, as well as also the explanation of the Bible in terms of how it applies to the physical body and astrotheology. So we actually explain these particular sciences that's right there in front of us, but it never was thought that way because people was only being geared in one point of view, and that's mostly from the theologian, point of view, So definitely we have those classes coming up. So those interested, give us a call.
Okay. Well, what's your opinion on the educational school system in America as it exists today? What's your opinion on that? How do you see that?
Well, I mean, we homeschooled my son. So my son was homeschooled from kindergarten all the way up into the 8th grade. We homeschooled him. It was because he wanted to play sports, which was football, that we put him in school, and he finished up from 8th grade to the 12th grade. But from kindergarten all the way up until the 8th grade, we taught him. So the educational system, they'll pass. When I was in school, there was people in which that, that was actually, like, for example, I was having problems in the 8th grade because I was so busy breakdancing and rapping. Right?
Okay.
But I knew I was intelligent enough in order to pass the class. Well, there was people that was passing the class, which I know damn well that shouldn't have passed them damn classes. I'm like, hold on. I'm like, hold up, I'm not smarter than you. Hold up, I'm not smarter than. Hold up, they passed. You know, so I began to realize
how did they pass?
Exactly. I began to realize that they was actually passing some of these students out because they flunked already so many times that they were just trying to get them out of school.
Okay.
You know, so the educational system, regardless, is a joke. You know, you can learn the basics, but nowadays, I mean, YouTube can outplay the school system, can outdo the school system. I mean, shoot, you put on YouTube, you know, your child can learn ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, and everything else, you know, right there off of YouTube. You don't even have to put them, you know, into the educational system any longer. So it's really easier nowadays based on the different facets of information that you can, you know, get. I mean, you can teach the child French, Spanish, Arabic, everything right there. You know, even their own indigenous language, Choctaw, you know, Lenape, you know. I mean, all the languages, everything is Cherokee right there. You know, so that's something that's a whole lot different than what we had. We never had accessibility to these types of things before. But YouTube and different other social media sites and things like that, and video sites have given us the ability in order to actually homeschool our child to a much higher degree and level. You know, you have a child who might be in 2nd grade, but they're reading on a 9th grade level. You know, I was that type of child. I was in the 6th grade, reading on the 12th grade level.
Okay.
You know, so
they got this thing going where they are determining that we are adults at 18, but that's not a part of our culture. Our adulthood started at 11 to 12 years old.
Right, when you go through puberty.
Yeah.
Right. Puberty determines your adultness. You know, all right? Before 12, you was not able to ejaculate. Now, all of a sudden, at 12, you are. So that means that something has come online. Same thing with the female. She's able to now have a menses or menstrual cycle. Before she wasn't. Okay. So those are the determining factors within indigenous cultures, whether it's the Aborigines of Australia, whether it's Africans of Africa, whether it's the Native Americans or indigenous people of North, Central, or South America, adjoining islands. We always had that understanding. You know, the Europeans is the one who wanted to retard that particular process and stated it was 18 when it was 6 years earlier at the age of 12, approximately.
Okay.
I mean, they know it too, because that's why they say at 13, that's when you start going into your teens, because really that's when you become a young adult.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hell, we know the Jews have been on this around that time, so we know that they understand that process.
Right. I think what they're doing is altering certain natural processes, because I know they've done that with the Gregorian calendar and forced that on the native people and got us away from the natural vibrational frequencies of the planet and connected to the biosphere. Now we have a technosphere, and we're under the impression that time is speeding up when it's not. But I don't want to get all down in that. But I do have an important question for you, and I guess we can touch on that later. But my question to you now is, what is it going to the Moorish family going into 2016 and beyond?
Understanding.
In your opinion. Understanding. That means the expansion of consciousness.
Right, because that's what it's going to take, is understanding. Because right now, so many Moors have so many different ideologies and their thought process, their own belief system, that really you can actually, we're talking about, all these debates. I mean, really, there's debates between Moors about what Prophet Noble stated and didn't state. Which, or the temple perspective versus those who are not in the temple perspective. Those who don't utilize the word indigenous and those who utilize the word indigenous. So what happened is that we have to go back to, what Ty say, Idiman or etymology, linguistics, and really dig into these dictionaries. And and then even then you have the RBG perspective. The white man wrote that. So I mean, there's so many belief systems. That the only way to keep knocking it out the box is by, as Prophet Noble Ali stated, and that's the right literature. Literature is what's going to change the people's minds. So the more books, the more literature, the more information that we can use and get out on these social medias and things like that. Is what changes people's minds and open and expands consciousness. Really, the internet is the nail in that coffin.
That's what it's going to take. Well, I don't know. I guess we're going to have to start with the. Well, let me ask you this. Let's get some clarity on this. What is your definition of consciousness?
My what?
What is your definition on consciousness?
Consciousness is simply being aware of your surroundings, whether it's on the physical plane or either in the dream world, which is the spiritual plane. Your awareness of what's going on at all times, whether it's utilizing one or all of 5 of your senses all the time. So whether it's using sight,
I have to agree with you on that 100%. Now, the youth, what is their problem? How do we deal with that? I'm trying to get everybody's perspective on these main problems that we are facing, and I want to bring up the youth. How do you? What's the solution to that situation?
Well, I mean, as far as the youth is concerned, it starts with the parents. So once you awaken the parents, they're supposed to be able to teach the youth. In particular, the mother. The mother is the first teacher of that child. So by awakening the woman's mind and expanding it, she teaches the child, and the child, responds and go off of what the mother states. In particular, within Islam, we know that around the age of 7, the father takes over and begins to start teaching the child. You know what I'm saying? So he, anyone who, abide by that belief system, at the age of 7, is a time in which that the male becomes more influential within that child's life. Must have also correct information. So we have to go beyond just a religious perspective and make it a cultural perspective. Because even as you stated, we talk about 12 and 13. This is when these what we refer to as children now actually become young adults, and so we have to start treating them as such and giving them proper information, correct information. So that depends on our education to them, and what they're able to pick up as far as they find interesting about about life itself. So we have to give them something that they find interesting. And that's really the job, giving them something that they find interesting. Right now, what's been found interesting is this whack behind rap music. So there has to be a method in which they can actually start, giving them some type of real music. We know that the major indoctrination is still the television, televised television. So that's still the major number one mind control tool and agent on the planet. Nothing has worked better than that. No movies, no radio, no indoctrination through the school system. Nothing has worked better and more efficiently as far as a governmental tool of mind control. Matter of fact, the word government itself means mind control. The word govern means control, and the word ment, which is short for mental, means mind. So it's mind control. government itself means mind control. So once we come from up under that indoctrination, then we can begin to start moving our children into the right direction. We know that the TV is a major thing. I think they watch like over 220,000 hours in a year. That's a lot of hours. Of watching TV.
Okay.
Some say, so that's a lot of hours.
Well, I've been preaching that gospel until I was, I think, about blue in the face about cutting off the idiot box. And if you're going to have it on,
right,
specialized programming.
Right.
Because see, what people don't understand, when you cut on the television, you're automatically exposed to information
right.
that cannot be seen with the physical eyes, but can be seen with the brain, who do the seeing anyway, and it's being recorded subliminally on the brain. But you have to do specialized programming, specific information that you have investigated and put in there to advance your consciousness. But when you cut that idiot box on, you get a mind full of what. And but people don't understand this. They see, well, I'm just watching a movie. I'm just watching the news. I'm watching a documentary or whatever. I'm just watching the game. But they don't realize that they are being the brain is being assaulted as soon as you cut it on. As soon as it comes on, they even got it now where they're actually able to look through the TV and look right at you and see what you're doing. Because right through the satellite, the transmission, the technology, all that stuff is there. They put information on. They can pretty much check your thought patterns based on what you are concentrating on looking at the TV. And it's amazing, but we can't seem to understand this thing. And this is something that we're going to have to be aware of and be in control of. Because I feel like if you are programming your brain 99% of the time, you feel better. I mean, if you're going to cut the TV on, cut it on, find out what the weather going to be like, and then cut it the hell off. Unless you go put in something that you're going to use to expand your consciousness. Now, once you expand your consciousness, then the next thing you have to do is dealing with communication. And you're out in the street, you're trying to explain to someone some higher consciousness, and it's just flying right straight over the head. And so that shouldn't stop your research and your investigation and the expansion of your consciousness. You can make them aware of the problem. They can make necessary corrections. You have those who are not going to make any corrections. That's okay. We're going to let the dead bury the dead. Nevertheless, we're going to move on. And what I want to ask you now, because I've been trying to get everybody's opinion on this stuff, from a metaphysical person that's aware of consciousness and the actual body and health and all this stuff. Could you give us a scientific breakdown on intermingling and intermarrying with people outside of our place?
Right. Well, there's recent articles that came out, matter of fact, one last year, the year before last, in which that spoke specifically about Europeans have the weaker genes, and how that because they have the weaker genes, that disease is much more prevalent. So we know that with weak genes, disease is more prevalent. So therefore, that would not be something in which that a smart or intelligent or brilliant individual person would do. It's by weakening the genes supply or source. The fact is that we're trying to awaken our DNA and our genes. We talk about junk DNA. 90% of our DNA is dormant. Only 10% of it is active or coding. So 90% of it is encoding. So so if we mix in with others whose genes are weaker, that means that basically you're giving that child a harder time to activate more DNA. When, if you mix with someone who has strong genes, have the closest blood type, which is O negative blood type, which is the oldest blood type, who understands 7 generations on their mother's side, 7 generations on their father's side, and that there was no, craziness and nobody, doing, too many crazy things within those family lineage, that you actually have the potential to produce a god or a goddess onto this planet. Of course, if you want to have the right astral theology, in other words, dealing with constellations and the zodiac, that's the way that that the ancients used to be able to do that. The Dogon tribes still do that to this day. The Zoroastrians, from out of Persia or Iraq and Iran or Kuwait, that is now called Mesopotamia. The Chinese, many still practice these particular arts today, as far as astrology is concerned. Even though for most people it has no bearing, but for those who are intelligent, we know that Jesus was found by the 3 wise men. How? Because they follow a star in the sky. You go to Psalms, I believe it's Psalms 18 or 19. It states specifically that the night sky is God's handiwork. So let us examine, that handiwork of God. So we can know what can go on and what our potential and our strengths and our weaknesses are, so that we can better ourselves. So with an astrological chart and with a numerological chart, you can tell the potentials of that child, what is latent within them, what is dormant within them, and how to activate it, and what they can become. And you can put them on the path of something which that they will make into a career, as that would be just simply a job. Every morning they're waking up, I hate this shit. That's what's going So that's the reason why we follow those particular traditions and customs, was because they helped. We have gotten away from that. That's what the Moors here.
I have to agree. I use it every day. There's not every day, every month, because I don't go by a Gregorian calendar, which is in a 1260 artificial man-made constructed time, lowest vibrational frequency on the planet. I use a galactic calendar, and I deal with, I know what chakras, I know what the color of that day represents, the glyphs, the aspects, everything is right there for me to investigate and to use on a daily basis. Now, numerology and astrology, I use that too. I've checked the day I was born. I've checked what's in the future. When the month of February comes, then we'll get the run done on that. I've already did January. So now we set the run. I know when Mercury goes retrograde and all that stuff. These are sciences and guideposts that we are supposed to use. But what happens, I think, with a lot of people, I think Christianity and religion seals the brain and burns it shut to the point where you cannot even communicate this kind of science to an individual. And I had that happen 2 times in a row. Once yesterday and this evening, I was walking up the road, and sister hollered across the street, "Hey, Brother Tarhaka, Happy New Year." And I said, "Oh, okay." She said, "You going up this way?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Can I walk with you?" I said, "Yeah." So we started walking together. And I said, "You told me Happy New Year." She said, "I haven't seen you since the New Year began." I said, "Well, honey, I don't think it's New Year." it's January, like they said it was, but I don't even think that's right. But well, it is New Year. I said, well, I'm looking at these trees. Ain't none of them got no leaves on them. I don't see no flowers blooming. I don't see no animals hatching. It don't look like spring to me. I said, well, so we had this conversation. So I said, well, you ever notice doing when you walk by and the first day of spring, I'm out with the tents up and barbecuing and all that good stuff. She said, yeah. I said, well, I be celebrating New Year. She said, you do that every year. I said, yeah. When you been celebrating? I celebrated January 1st. When you go cook out? I ain't getting nothing in there cold cooking out. I said, well, don't you think something wrong?
Exactly.
She said, well, you beginning to make some sense, you know. But anyway, she was going to fight me on this thing, man. And when she told me that, I said, well, when did you do the investigation to determine whether or not January 1st was the beginning of a new year? Give me the science on it. And so she couldn't give me that, but she wanted to fight and all that. But anyway, I left that alone. But go ahead. What were you about to say?
No, can you hear me?
Well, Yeah, I hear you now.
Okay.
In your opinion, how damaging was Christianity?
How damaging was Christianity? Whew.
Yeah.
Big God Almighty. Okay. All right. From the way in which that has been forced upon us through Catholicism, through the Protestant movement, through slavery to now, with the particular papal bulls, you know, the particular papal edicts, the Black Codes, the Slave and Negro Acts, and and I mean, we can go on and on and on. You know, it's been very damaging. A matter of fact, so damaging that we believe that a blonde-haired, blue-eyed, pale-skinned man is going to come out the sky on 1,000 horses. Must be like Pegasus or something from the Greek mythology, and being that his white horse, you know, and come down in order to save us and, you know, do the rapture and take those who are, you know, good, you know, with him back to heaven, and those who are bad, you know, leave them on earth to be destroyed. You know, that's the concept of the ends of times, of the apocalypse. You know, so since that is a conception, you know, well, as a dealing with African spirituality, we know that, you know, that the horse, you know, the white horse, and which that you supposedly ride upon, was basically just like the donkey in which that you ride through the gates of Jerusalem on. The horse symbolizes the animalistic, you know, in which that being that is white has now been purified, and that Jesus himself symbolizes the head, you know, or the higher self. So the animal symbolizes the lower self has been purified, and Jesus symbolizes the higher self. You know, that's the same symbol that we find with the Sphinx, you know, in on the Giza Plateau. You know, the lion's body symbolizes the animalistic nature of man, and the head symbolizes intelligence, you know, intuition, you know, not just the gut feeling or instincts, but intuition. Being able to, you know what's getting ready to happen and go on, which is one of those gifts. So we understand that, you know, when you're looking at the symbology, the representation of a thing, that it means something more than just what is on the surface. That's what means. That's what we mean by occult, that is hidden, or that's what we mean by esoteric, meaning that something with, you know, that is within something, that is, you know, that is, it has a deeper meaning. It's not exoteric. It's not dealing with something just on the surface, or literal, you know, historical. You know, it goes beyond that. And when we look in the Bible, we see that even anthropologists and archaeologists and biblical scholars can't find these particular graves of none of their people, you know, in which that they in Egypt finding, you know, people all the time, you know, but they can't find none of their people. You know, they ain't find the body of Moses yet. You know, none of them, you know, in that regard. So, you know, we're looking at something that, you know, has been damaging, because it has a deeper meaning than what has appeared on the surface, and we run with the surface meaning. So we're really a shallow Christians, because the word Christian actually means Christ-like. And I rarely see trying to become Christ-like. They're too busy worshiping Christ instead of trying to become like Christ. So they're not really the best definition for the term Christian.
All right. Well, I have to look at it and call it like I see it. I'm looking at it. I look at it on a daily basis. I look at, especially on Sunday, and I'm looking and I see it, and man. But anyway, Dr. Alim, how important is it for people that's been labeled Negro, colored, black, African American, Afro American, and everything else? How important is it for them to understand and realize and do research on their nationality?
Well, it's no coincidence that you just finished playing John Henry Clark at the break. Well, John Henry Clark said it best on nationality, that we are people in search of a nationality. And that it's not until we realize what nationality means and its connection to land, and that when you realize the connection, it must be instantaneously. Nationality must instantaneously attach you to land, history, and culture. Now, if nationality are supposed to be instantaneously the connection to land, then when I look in Black's Law Dictionary Deluxe 4th edition and I look up land and the word more was embedded inside the definition, damn, I can't get more instantaneous than that.
That's correct. So you let's say that again now. You say nationality when you look up the word nationality in Black's Law, which edition?
Right, 4th edition. When I look up the definition of land in Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition deluxe, it states specifically the word Moors, Moors, as part of the definition of land.
Okay.
So if the word Moor and land are synonymous, which means the same, that's what they taught us in school now.
Okay.
Give me all the synonyms. So if Moors and land are synonymous, then that becomes nationality because they instantaneously tie things back to nationality based on that definition of land.
Okay.
And this is what John Henry Clark told us. So once we realize that, then we have our answer. So then when you look and see the definition of Moor by Webster Merriam Dictionary, and it states that a dark-skinned complected person or anyone of dark-skinned complexion, then the term Moors become relevant to the fact that you are the original people on the planet Earth, and that you are the first people on the planet Earth. And since you are the first people on the planet Earth, then the definition of which that even the Nation of Islam states, who's the original man? The original man is the black man, the maker that, the cream of planet Earth, father of civilization, God of the universe. So even in that definition is the Asiatic black man, the Asiatic people, or Asiatic means the body of Asia, which is talking about the whole planet itself, in that regard. Okay. That's one thing in which that Nation of Islam, the Moorish Science Temple of America, and the 5 percenters or the Nation of Gods on Earth, they all agreed that we are Asiatic, which meant that, after we spread it from out to Africa into the diaspora, into the other 6 continents, making the 7 continents as they refer to it as, we was Asians. We was part of the global body of the planet. That's the term Asiatic in which that it, comes from. Within the Kabbalistic teachings, the word Asiatic or Asian comes from the word Asia, which means the realm of the making. So we are in the realm of the making. The physical plane, the physical planet itself is the realm of the making. So we're all Asiatic in that terminology, you know. So, but I mean, this was all explained, and if people just listen, you know, to, Dr. Khalid Muhammad. You know, in the last video, he stated that I'm a Moor, and if I wasn't a Moor, I wouldn't have said I was a Moor. Now, he goes on to explain the term Asiatic also in that definition, in which that he tells you that Asiatic simply means body, talking about the earth, talking about when all the continents were together, Pangea. It was also called Mu. It was also called Asia. You know, so he speaks on all these things. You know, so people just have to go back and listen to John Henry Clark, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and different others, in which that they're trying to produce and promote this separatism, you know, amongst the RBGs and amongst the Moors and so forth and so on. As I stated with San Neto about 2-3 months ago, I specifically stated that Yusuf bin Yakinen, Dr. Yusuf bin Yakinen, he had a PhD in Moorish history and culture from the University of Barcelona, Spain. Okay. So he had a PhD in Moorish history, and he states in his videos, several videos, that when he refers to Moors, he simply say Africans. Moors and Africans to him was interchangeable. So it was not Moors against Africans, Africans against Moors, and all that stupid shit that they are doing now in all these silly ass debates. All right? So those who really understand, you know, this information and have studied these brothers, who've actually been with these brothers. I've known these brothers personally. All right, Dr. Ben came to the debate with me and Brother Said. All right, Dr. Ben came to another lecture in which I lectured with Dr. Ashwa Kwesi. All right, you know, Dr. Khalid, I've known him since 93, 94. I sat right next to him when he got excommunicated from out the Nation of Islam and was crying like a little baby. Wow. And was asking us, what should he do? Should he become the chairman for the new Black Panther Party, or or form his own thing, in everything? That's what he was asking us. You know, so I know these brothers. I've sat with these brothers. You know what I'm saying? So it's different than when you have talked to them and sat with them. You know, to understand that what they was talking about from a holistic point of view, as compared to the separatism that is taking place right now in the so-called conscious community, which is a joke.
Yeah. Well, I got another caller with his hand raised. I'm opening up area code 412, going down the line. Area code 412, you on the air. Okay, no one at 412. Let's go down the line. Area code 904-2660. You have a comment or question for our guest? Okay, no comment or question from 904. Okay, now, brother, let me ask you this. Now, what is Moorish science?
Well, Moorish science is that everlasting gospel, as it is called. It's also called the old-time religion, which is talking about Semitawee, which is the ancient Egyptian mystery school, which is called the Haka or the Herbak, coming from the Metu Neter, which means the traditions or the ended teachings of the upper and lower self, referred to as Tahuti, the mysteries of Tahuti. You know, so that's really what it is. The teachings of Tahuti Ra, and Ra being Heru. And then when you're getting actually Christian or baptized, you would see on the walls of ancient Kemet, on the Metu Neter, you would see the coming forth, the Messiah, with Heru and Tahuti on one side, pouring water and that Messiah, which simply means anointed, is being anointed with the fat of the crocodile Sebek. The fat of the crocodile Sebek. Sebek symbolizes the one who prompted up Heru and helped raise Heru to become the hero within the mythology that we see within the Samson story of the Bible, the Hercules stories within the Greek mythology, the Superman story within the comic books. You know, every hero mythology is based on Heru, where the word hero comes from or is derived from. So this mythology is over 4,000 to 5,000 years old. That's really what's going on. It's just some more wordplay, which they can always give us, but we always have to figure it out in one shape, form, or fashion.
Yeah, you're right about that. Now this we have the 10 Commandments. Where did they come from?
Oh, well, we know that it comes from the 147 negative confessions, also referred to as the codes of Mayat or the Mayatian codes, in which that dwindled down to 77. Then it became 42. Then eventually became 10 within the Old Hebrew text known as the 5 books of Moses or the Pentateuch or the Tanakh, or also referred to as the Torah, and then becomes 2 within the New Testament under Jesus. You know, do unto others as others have them do unto you.
Okay. Well, so what we have today is called the 10 Commandments. Came straight out of Egypt, thousands of years before this stuff was ever written and put in the Bible, and said that's where it's supposed to. Okay, all right. So we're talking about grand theft literature.
Oh well, we're talking about some serious plagiarism. Yes, and the reason why we say it's plagiarism because Moses, the character Moses, never gave credence back to getting it from, you know, being a so-called lawgiver. He didn't say that the lawgiver was originally a woman, you know, or in the form of a woman. Hence, even the Justice Department tell you that it was a woman who was blind, so at least give you the right gender, even though it's the wrong race.
Oh, okay. Hold on a minute. We got it. All right, Dr. Alim. It appears to me that we have this thing. We have the God principle. Well, before we go down that, let me open up this phone line here. Area code 305. You are on the air. 305. Okay, no 305. Let me go down to area code 202. 202. You're on the air. What's your question or comment for our guest? Area code 202.
Islam and greeting. Islam and greeting, my brother.
Islam. That is that.
I'd like to know this. What is the correct procedure as far as declaring your nationality? Because, you know, you got a lot of these temples out here that are 501(c)(3) temples. And I'd like to know the correct way to declare your nationality as far as doing the paperwork and letting Rome know who you are as far as being a Moorish American.
Right. Well, the first thing dealing with nationality, that when you go to the Black's Law Dictionary, it speaks specifically that your nationality is your political affiliation. So being that you're dealing with a body politic, what you will want to do is make sure that you have those tenets inside of your documents, which is an affidavit. So the first thing, any document that you do has to be an affidavit. There's laws called the 10 Maxims of Law, in which that affidavit has to be rebutted point for point. If it is not, then it stands as truth in any court system throughout the country. So therefore, you always want to have a paper trail, all right? And in your papers or documents or affidavits, as we refer to them as, you want to state that you're not a 14th Amendment citizen because the 14th Amendment was never fully ratified. You want to state that based on the Dred Scott case decision, which has never been repealed or changed, that you are not Negro, black, or colored, which are artificial labels in which that was still being applied to Dred Scott, and that's the reason why he lost that particular case, because he had no nationality. All right, and if you go back and read the actual case, you will see that they state that it was based on nationality, and that's the reason why he lost. All right, this is by Judge Taney, and Judge Taney was the same one who ruled over the Ayers versus Turner's case, in which that they had nationality, and therefore they won their case. But yet, Dred Scott and the Ayers of Turner look identical. In other words, we would say, well, these are black folks. Exactly. So how did one black folk? All right, so how did one black folk win, and then the other black folk didn't win? And it was the same damn white judge or federal judge, right? Because one was dealing with nationality and one wasn't. So that's the reason why that case has never been repealed and never changed, because it always had to be some type of loophole in order for you to, rectify the situation in which that they have had us under. All right. So then, also based on Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution, it states that we're a 3/5 person. All right, 3/5 person pay no taxes. 3/5 person is seen as an animal, as seen as goheen, chattel or cattle, and so therefore you have to rectify that. You're not in civilis mortuus. You're now in full life. The only reason why you come to court is because it's threat, duress, and coercion. TDC. So therefore you have to state that would be the only reason why to appear. Otherwise, you would send a sheriff out in order to arrest me. He has a gun. You know what I'm saying? So he can do harm to me or to my family. But yet I'm staying specifically that I'm not combatant. So you ain't got to worry about paper terrorism. You ain't got to worry about all these, threats that they're claiming now that most Americans are, and all that is bullshit. All that is nonsense. So you stay specifically in your affidavit of nationality that that you're not this. Now what you are indigenous based on the Declaration of Rights of Indigenous People, in which that Article 6 states specifically that indigenous people have the right to a nationality. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 5 states specifically that a person has the right to a nationality. As a matter of fact, not just to a nationality, to change the nationality if they so choose to. A child has the right to a nationality. So these are things that we have to put into the documentation. Now, when you look up the definition of indigenous at the United Nations specifically states that indigenous, defined, those who have historical continuity here on this land prior to the invasion of their territory by the Europeans. That's one. Now, 2 says, as well as those who was brought to the New World and who freed themselves and those who wish to be reattached to the culture they've been torn. So this is for the RBGs, and this is for those who say that they came from the Olmecs, that they descendants of the Olmecs. It doesn't matter. You are still indigenous because you are the oldest people on the face of the planet, and the United Nations has already rectified that. So that's not even an argument.
That's right.
So these are the things that you have to have in your nationality documentation, and that's the correct way. You go down to the Clerk of Civil Filing of Superior Court, and you get a register number, put it on the public record, or you go to the Register of Deeds office, which is called the County Recorder, and you get a book and page number, and you file it under miscellaneous of the real estate section. So those are the ways in which that you could do a proper affidavit of nationality and where to take them to, brother.
Okay. All right. Thank you, brother. Islam and peace.
Islam
peace.
Right. Now, earlier we talked about could you give us a metaphysical perspective on the female principle?
Right. Well, scientifically, it is said that the female species was here at least 150,000 years before the male species. Basically, they refer to it as, I guess you can say, well, for lack of a better term, dealing with genetics, dealing with the fact that the woman species, they say, is downgrade version of an androgynous being, and that the male species split from the female species by way of the sun's interaction with her body and her vaginal area. At least this is what is said by Hilton Otima in his book, Regeneration. And allegedly the 2.8 genetic material in which that is supposedly missing from the genetics of the male actually became that which is the phallus symbol, or became the elongated clitoris. We know that the testes are nothing but fallen ovaries. We know that the man doesn't have the mammal glands in the breast, but he still have a chest or a breast, but he doesn't have the mammal glands to produce the milk. At least not under normal circumstances anyway. Of course, for those that's interested, read more on The Secret of Regeneration by Hilton Otima. He used a lot of information from the early 1920s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, and even 60s, explaining, what was going on. I mean, information which that's not even taught today, in history books or in science books, biology class, chemistry. I mean, he drops it and go into depth about this. And there's recent articles that came out from the last 5 years in which that states that the male species came after the female species. And not that it was an afterthought in that regard, or that it was necessarily just, degenerated. The fact is that the male species is still able to produce life, but it's on a small scale, which is through the sperm or the semen. The semen encased in the sperm. The sperm encased in the semen. That's really what's going on. The story actually of Moses really is the tale of it. When they say that Moses was sealed in a basket filled with slime and then sent down the river, that is nothing more than an ejaculation being sent into the vaginal canal, which is symbolic to the river of life. And it says that the princess found, which is the woman principle, found Moses. Moses meaning to be drawn forth from the water. Well, the sperm is drawn forth from the water, which is the water of life, which is the semen, in order to start the blastopores, or what is called cellular division. Within the woman's eggs, the tail of the sperm has to break off, and the head has to be blown up to the equivalent size of the egg. And then once it is, it begins to start going through cellular division, in which that produces blastopores, in which that produces the embryo, the fetus, and the child coming up 9 months later, so forth and so on, the various stages. Also reading books by Mantak Chia, he speaks about the same thing. It actually is two books. One is called Sexual Reflexology, but there's actually two more, so it's three. And one is called it's for the male, and then the other one is for the female, but it's talking about energy and how energy plays an effect on the male body, as well as also how it plays an effect on the female body. But he made two books on it. One is purplish, and the other one is orange. I think it's called the Hidden Dial of the Female, or in the male species, something like that. Can't remember the title right now, but those two books gets into this information, as well as also Dr. Malachi York. He wrote information on this some years ago, back in the 90s, in which that he got into some of this information. I think it was in the secrets of science of creation, in the book The Science of Creation. Okay. These are just some sources,
Are you familiar with the works of Cradle Mutua.
Yeah, Cradle Mutua. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Go ahead.
What did he say? He said something about it.
He stated in his interview with David Icke that he had to go through a real hard time to get access to the questions in life that he was asking, which was the secret knowledge. And he stated in that interview that in the beginning, we were both male and female in one body until we were divided by the support. Did you ever see that video?
Right. Did you ever see that video? Yes, I think I know which one you're talking about. Right, when you state that we was androgynous. Right.
And I noticed that I was looking at the science on the golden number, the number 9, and the Kundalini energies, Atlantis, and such. That talking about the yin and the yang being the left brain and right brain. And what is happening is we are functioning in a third dimension time, left brain thinking without feminine principle, which we need to master.
Right. Exactly. And that goes basically for all of us. Exactly.
Say that again?
I said basically that goes for all of us. Exactly.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Because it stands to reason if the information that he gave us was true. Because see, right now we have we're in trouble because we have a male-dominated society. Everything is male. Which is the war aspect. He has new stuff that he's put out, giving a full breakdown on the importance of the woman in their tribes. You could not do certain things unless you get an agreement from your wife. You can punish your child. And so on and so forth. I was just wondering if you had seen that information.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
Personal genetics.
Well, I think I'm gonna do a little bit more research on that because it's making a whole lot of sense to me.
Right.
Because I wanted to do a whole lot of stuff when I was growing up and. But my mama told me I'm good now. It seems like all over the world. I think we need to go back to the drawing board. And check this in some more, cause we got this male thing going on. And they winning all the fights. But what's your take on that?
Well, I agree. I mean, in the male-dominated society in which that if it's going to come back into balance, then it has to be both of us, coming at this thing, together. Not necessarily one in front of the other one, but the woman has to definitely be put back into her position as far as, being, the feminine aspect. She symbolizes the epitome and the incarnation of the Kundalini in physical form. You know, her bodily curves symbolizes a snakish, you know what I'm saying, body type, you know, because when your snake is on the ground, it curves as it's traveling amongst, on the dirt or ground or whatever the case is. And the woman symbolizes that epitome. That's the reason why Eve and the serpent was synonymous in the Old Testament. And when one reads in the Kabbalistic text, they actually are one and the same. The serpent name is Hay, and the woman name is Hayat. So, you know, there's a connection, you know, because the woman symbolizes that Kundalini energy.
Mm-hmm. So, it would be safe to say, based on that science you gave us, that she's supposed to be in charge of us.
Well, she's supposed to be definitely a much greater part in the play in life, you know, than what is taking place right now. There's no doubt about that. You know, there shouldn't be restrictions like what we read within the Bible that, you know, a woman isn't supposed to stand up and, you know, teach a man, you know, let her husband teach her at home. You know, that's what it said in the book of Paul. You know, that is also taught within Islam in many instances, you know. But we know that that's a male chauvinistic perspective. Why? Because it's a male who wrote that particular passage. Now, if it came from a woman, then that'd be a different story. you know,
right.
But it's not coming from a woman. It's not coming from a female or womanly perspective. It's coming from a masculine dominated perspective, one that's chauvinistic in many cases, egotistical, you know, because a man shouldn't fear the woman. In most cases, the reason why men fear women is because of the woman's sexual powers. She's more sexually dominated. She can, her sexual, appetite and her ability to have multiple orgasms is what makes the man feel inferior, because normally after one, it's lights out for that nigga.
I don't know if the audience want to hear this. But I don't see nobody jumping off the switchboard. Well, you got a point.
I'm just saying that's what gave us right. That's what created the insecurities from the male perspective, as far as us dominating her, is because of her powers, as far as the sexual powers, her prowess, is concerned. And this is documented, when you go and really do the research. Frances Cress Welsing speaks somewhat about this in her ISIS papers.
Right.
And she states about why the so-called pale man or white man is scared of us, because of genetic annihilation. So, it's dealing with the sexual appetite and the sexual nature of individuals, in which that comes to that same, whether it's between the so-called races or whether it's between male and female. It comes down to the sexual powers of appetite. It comes down to that same thing.
Okay. Well, now, I don't think. I don't know if you agree with me or not. That we should go to our woman and declare that we understand how powerful they are, so we may surrender and let them know that they should from now on be in charge of us.
Well, well, I know from the Empress perspective. Well, we can be in charge together. How about that? All right. We can be in charge together. You know,
okay.
But there's still roles in which that we have determined after hundreds and thousands, even millions of years of being together as male and female, that there's certain things that we have placed responsibility upon. For the male, it was the responsibility of providing security, of of protection. For the woman, it was the raising of the family. It was the cooking of the meals in order to make sure that everyone received their sustenance, the nutrients. So these roles, these gender roles, have been embedded within us. Even though we now know that there's a demonic plan of destroying that of the gender roles and perverting it. Actually, as what we see now is going on with the homosexual thing, and that being the new black. Well, I guess they can. Really. But being that we no longer using the term black, I guess they can keep it, huh?
Yeah, but let me ask you this now. What do you think, in your opinion, this is just between me and you, man to man, what do you think that the world would be like if none but women was in charge of everything on the earth?
If women was in charge?
Yeah, of everything.
Well, Well, I'm gonna tell you, we get ready to find that out with Hillary Clinton becoming the next president. So we got 4 years to figure that one out, Brother Tarhaka.
Okay. I mean, now the reason why I'm asking this question because I had an incident. I was working for this company.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a big gathering for these women auxiliary. And there was hundreds of them that came. Not but women. Wasn't no males who would be there. Nothing but women. The only reason I was there because I was one of the waiters. And I was supposed to do what I was told. Right. But now, before the meeting happened, our supervisor, who was a male, he told me, today we're going to have this meeting, and if anybody tell y'all to get one of them big giant carts, do not move that cart no matter what. I said, okay, we got it, boss. So when the meeting started, I ran into this group of women. And one of them, I knew her, and she said, I need to get one of them big giant things so we could put our pocketbooks on it. I said, well, ma'am, I'm not allowed to go get one of them right there for y'all because our supervisor told us not to get that. So I can't do this. She said, listen, do you know who my husband is? I said, yeah. I said, you Miss Howard. I know your husband. He was a coach at school. She said, he used to try to tell me what to do, but I wouldn't let him. I said, okay. I said, well, ma'am, I can't. She said, you go get that thing like I told you to get it right now. And if anybody told you not to, you tell them to come see me. I said, yes, ma'am. So I went to get the big thing and I rolled it out in the hallway. And I came in the middle of the hallway and I seen the supervisor standing down with his legs spread and his arms crossed, looking dead at me, I was doing what he told me not to do. But on the other end of the hall, them 5 sisters stood up, walked out in the hallway, and looked dead at him. And he ran To the left. And I pushed it down there. You told me, you said, if you see you in this gum, you come tell me we coming down to the office and jack him up. That was the end of that.
Okay.
It was a mess. I was wondering who's going to. It seemed like Wide Urban and the gunfight at the OK Corral. So I don't know about the presidency of the United States, stuff like that. And I think Susan had a hand on the button about nuclear war. Oh Lord. I think I might pass out. What do you think?
That's why they got the chief of staff there as well as the military and everybody else there. So to help with the reasoning of certain things. So but even in relationships, I mean, oftentimes in order to make the woman happy, the man would do what needs to be done. So really, in a relationship,
you don't want no problem.
Right, exactly. He don't want no problems, especially not at home where, he want to be able to lay his head down in peace. You know what I'm saying, and not wake up in pieces.
Okay. Well. Ain't now one of them calling in here, so we must be doing all right. Because if we get on here and start talking about some stuff they don't like, they'll call in.
Oh, really? I'm sure.
Yeah. Straighten it out for the record, as if they're going to the Supreme Court somewhere.
Right.
But anyway, we love them. Can't live without them. Because I asked my sister one time when she was growing up, she was raising a house with 4 boys. And I asked her, I said, Rob, what do you think the world would be like if there were no women, nothing but men? She said, she looked right at me, she said, the whole world would be stank and all of y'all will be dead. I thought about it. I said, well, you probably about right. But it's amazing how we need to learn how to get along and try to understand one another. Now, Shahrazad Ali brought out black man's guide to understanding the black woman. What you think about that?
Well, Shahrazad Ali, I know what she states within her books, but the thing is communication. Yes, there's times in which that, women speak excessively, and the male, most of the time, not as emotional, was more mental. He like to analyze and trying to figure things out first mentally before he give his expression, which is emotions. The woman, on the other hand, speak first and then think afterwards. That's just the basic components of the way that our brains are structured based on our intricate testosterone and estrogen. The hormones in which that's produced in the bodies and our different, that goes back to, her representing the right hemisphere of the brain and we representing the left hemisphere of the brain. We're more linear than she is. She's more holistic. Sometimes she can see the bigger picture, but not necessarily can communicate that in the best way. So being that we've neither one of us has been taught how to communicate properly, you know what I'm saying, whether it's in school or in relationships. And that was purposely done because I remember seeing Minister Farrakhan. He said something very important back in '89 in the Black Families Agenda. He stated that there were 3 things that Congress would never teach so-called Black people. 1 was economics, which is business. 2, which was sex, all right, dealing with genetics. And 3 was politics. So, you know, sex rung in my mind because I'm like, what? They wouldn't teach us sex. I said, hold on, I just had a damn sex class. You know, I had 6 classes. You know, I'm in my, you know, first, second year going to college. You know, I'm in relationship class now, and we talk about this. What is it that what is it that they're talking about that they will not teach us? Well, they would, just like we talked about earlier. They didn't teach us about astrology, numerology. They didn't teach us about you know. So that means the 2 components in which that will help us to understand ourselves and teach us self-love, of have some type of concept of where we want to go in life, was never taught to us. So we didn't have a book in order to give us any clarity on the steps that we need to make in life. We had to bump our heads, you know, F up many times, you know, get in situations and, you know, have problems, you know, and then figure it out. We'll figure it out later. This is the way that society has left us to do. So now we'll put that same confusion into So what we think is going to happen? 70% divorce rate. That's what's going to happen.
Right.
2 million people, 2 million brothers and sisters in jail. That's what's going to happen. Because we've never been taught the basics of communication, and that is actually dealing with the science of sex. We've never been taught that. So that's why I started studying, and I had a grandmaster teacher who taught that, Tantra Kriya Yoga, in which that he taught us the science of Tantra, of Tantra Yoga, and also of Kriya Yoga. As a matter of fact, he's the one who combined both systems, and that's Grandmaster Sunyata Saraswati. So he taught us these particular things of not just from a sexual perspective, but from a communication perspective, and how men has to begin to start utilizing more of the emotional body and understanding the woman, and the woman has to begin to start using more of her mental body in order to understand the male. So now you get the books called Men is from Mars, Women is from Venus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and all these different things.
Well, what's your, could you give us a breakdown on numerology?
Right. Well, numerology is dealing with Pythagorean theory, all right, or Pythagoras.
Okay.
As we know, that's one of the same ones who didn't exist. So we're talking about Imhotep, all right?
Okay.
Numerology deals with the alphabets. In particular, if we do English, then we have 26 alphabets, or 26 letters, in which that you would do your name, the consonants, or that which is constant. Those particular numbers demonstrate, you know, your personality. And then you have your soul urge, which is demonstrated by the vowels within your name. You know, so you will begin to start doing various combinations, and so you would go like from A is 1, B is 2, you know, C is 3, you know, so forth and so on until it's like, you know, you got 9, and then 7, which give you 26. So you would do that type of a square thing, and then just based on the numbers or the letters that comes up under, you know, 1, it would be A, you know, then, you know, you come down, and I think that's L, you know, for memory. I'm doing this for memory. So, you know, so now you got the letter A in your name, so that's 1. You know, you got a letter B in your name, that's 2, so forth and so on. So that's how you would figure out your name. First you'll do your consonants, then you'll do your soul urge, which is your vowels. Then you do them all together. You also do your birthday, and then you find out the letters in which that what they mean. The numerals and what they mean to you. Like one is an individual who's, they negatively they can be me, myself, and I. I got mine, now you need to get yours. If it's in an egotistical point of view, or one can be an individual who understands oneself, they have mastered certain components of their life. Two can be a dualistic point of view. Someone who can be confused or don't have a particular direction, that's negatively, or someone who is able to combine both hemispheres of their brain in a sense and see a holistic picture or view or see something from another perspective. The numbers symbolizes certain things. One of the best books to get is actually called Numerology, in which that does a fantastic breakdown. There's also free numerology sites, as well as also free astrological sites. Astrolab is a good site to do astrology. For those who need readings, then you can go to Facade of Tarhaka, Facade. Tarhaka. If a person have any questions concerning a life incident or situation or some things that they might want to know, they have the New Orleans voodoo deck on there that you can utilize. There's a lot of things that we can definitely do in order to figure out what's going on within ourselves and give it some type of direction.
You're right. I've been dealing with the Eastern and Western astrology and numerology. But most of the time I use it for myself. But I've been examining the works of Susan White. Very interesting. But the numbers don't lie. I like to watch him do the tarot cards. It's interesting, but in my opinion, I think it's only certain people that can do it correctly.
Right.
Well, so the astrological aspect. What do you think about the Eastern astrology with the different months compared to versus combined with the Eastern zodiac?
Well, it depends on which. We have to. Well, there's so many different. Some use the Indian astrology. Some use the Chinese astrology.
You're right.
Some use the Zoroastrian ancient astrology, and then of course you have the what is this sidereal astrology. Which is so-called Western astrology. So it depends on which way a person wants to go. We know that China is 1 year ahead of us. So, we say that it's 2016. Well, it's 2017 in China, based on their estimates. Right. And then we got, since 1997, we got Officius, which is called the Serpent Wrestler, the 13th astrological sign of zodiac that has come into play. So for those who were born after 1997, that's correct. Right, we have to start adding that into the mix. So it's so many things that we have to do as far as upgrading our information from that which was the norm before 1997.
Okay, well now according to the latest astrology we're in number 9 according to the so-called Mayan and Aztec in the year of 9. And what's your science on that? What's your science on that? Familiar with it?
You went in and out, Brother Tarhaka. What you said on number 9?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, 9 ether, the curliness up the hill, which spirals in the same shape of a tornado, hurricane, water going down the sink or a drain pipe, our fingerprints, us in the fetus position in the womb of the mother, our ears, our body structure and types, which is based on the golden ratio of mean or either on pi, So there's a lot going on when it comes to mathematics, and the number 9, everything seems to go in that pattern, in some shape, form, or fashion. 9 being the highest numeral, single digit numeral, also correlates to the fact that, it's one of the few numbers, that when divided, it goes into itself,
That's correct.
Let me
open up this other line.
Here. Okay.
Area code 904. Area code 904. You're on the air. Hello? We're listening, sister.
Okay, so the number 9 is so phenomenal. And we just don't know that. It's like this is straight.
Right. Well, what I was talking about, number 9 divided into itself, like 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is
and it's
18.
It's always going to be the greater number. It's going to always be the greater number.
Right.
Regardless of what you say. Always be there. But me as being like a person like that don't deal with. I live my life.
That's fine. Everybody has the ability and the will in order to live their life. I mean, you don't have to.
All I'm saying is the number 9 is a great number. It's our number.
Right.
And we don't even understand it. That's it.
Right. That's true.
It's giving us a chance. I'm just finding it out. But it's great. We just don't. I don't understand. I mean, even if without the number 9, we're still phenomenal. We're still great. We're great people. And we just don't understand it. One day I'm gonna get on airwaves. I'm gonna tell y'all how great it is that to be like a black person. Because I'm just finding myself. Peace to everybody.
Peace.
All right, sister. We appreciate you for dropping that on us. Okay. You can continue, brother. On what you were telling us about the 9. I know you mentioned the golden spiral. I checked that out. Math that you use it with that is pi. I can't use no other mathematics.
Right.
To make it come out right. It appears in everything on Earth. Even solid objects. We know it's in plant life, animal life, our life. All substances and things on Earth. The golden spiral is there.
spiral is there.
Right.
I look at the I'm looking at the handle, a wooden handle, shovel handle. And certain knots is more clearly than others. There it is. There it is. Go see it. Come to the conclusion. That in 2016, in this year, based on what we've been doing, I think we need to start expanding our consciousness in the area of the metaphysics, astronomy, astrology, pre-mathematics, and the zodiac and numerology.
Right.
I think that will do the trick, because if we go these sciences, we're dealing with knowing, and we can we have to continue to walk and work hand in hand with the breathology and the chakras. Because I don't know anything else that we could be doing outside of that. I know there are other things that we're going to be adding to that. But I think these are the main sciences we need to concentrate on.
Right. I agree, Brother Tarhaka.
I mean, that's what I'm seeing now. I mean, we've done a fantastic job last year on law, nationality, and a whole lot of other things. Now it's time for to actually take the powers of the spirit and use it. That's just my opinion. Based on what I'm looking at.
Right.
So what do you think would be the solution to saving the black family? So-called black family.
Well, I mean, doing what we're doing, uplifting full of humanity. That's to say black family, being the indigenous and the original people on planet Earth. And then our information will trickle down to everyone else, just like it always has. Whether it's our music, in which that we produce the different genres of music, whether it was gospel, rhythm, blues, jazz, funk, rock, road, rap. We are the creators of those genres of music, but now it's filtered down to everyone else. Break dancing and popping and locking, and those things are now filtered down to everyone else. So everything that we do filters down to everyone else. So if we get ourselves back in order through this consciousness and information of what you just finished talking about, which can be the so-called saving grace, then it filters down to everyone else. And then, that's one of the ways.
Now, I know you have done some research trying to find everything you possibly could on Atlantis. What did you come up with?
Well, Atlantis is the adjoining islands. Those islands were much more closer than they are presently today. The Bahamas, Trinidad, Tobago, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, Cuba. At one time, these particular islands was more closer. It was more of a cluster than they are now, spread more so apart, by dozens and hundreds of miles. So that was at one time Atlantis, the island of Atlantis. Then you had the mainland of Atlantis, which is on the eastern seaboard, in which that ran up from, from Florida on up into nearly into Virginia.
Okay. So what did you come across
when you
because I know you taking a look at the moral
tap.
Mhm.
What did you conclude in there?
What, the Moria?
The Emerald Tablet.
Oh, the Emerald Tablets. Oh, those are the 42. That's part of the 42 books of Tahuti, or Thoth.
Okay.
Or Hermes Trismegistus, or Hermes, whichever name that they want to choose to use. But those are supposedly one of the 42 books in which that was written by Tahuti, penned by him. Of course, Tahuti is symbolic to recorder of our experiences. It's the hub of our memories. It's what records the good and the bad deeds. This is what is meant by Muslims when they sit down and they say to the right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and then to the left, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and they salam and their angels. All that is talking about the left and right hemisphere of the brain, in particular of the cerebrum, down into that information being passed or being inscribed down into the medulla oblongata, which is part of the reptilian portion of the brain and the brain stem, leading up into the limbic portion of the brain. So that's really what it's talking about. Tahuti was the character of that particular area. And how we know that is because Jesus was crucified on Mount Golgotha, which meant the place of the skull. The Q of Cup, which is part of Golgotha, is one of the alphabets of Hebrew, and based on geometria, it had meaning. The meaning was a monkey. Meaning was an axe. The meaning was also copy. So what area of the brain copies information is also symbolized as an axe, because when the kundalini comes up and raised through the 33 vertebrae, it hits the back of the head like a thump noise, like when someone is taking an axe and cutting wood. And then also a monkey, which happens to be the baboon, which is the symbol of Tahuti. You know, if anyone do a study, he had the ibis bird and he had the baboon, in which that was two of the symbols for him, you know. So Tahuti symbolizes the back of the head, the medulla oblongata. If the person slow down the breath to 7.5 breaths a minute, you can actually produce what is called photographic memory. All right. It is also the storage place of your past lives. So by tapping on that area 25 times, 3 times a day, you can actually have glimpses of your past life. So that would be beneficial for a person who might find themselves in a similar position that or a deja vu experience, in order to know exactly where that came from and the reason why they are having that, or the reason why they have to experience that particular test again. But that's really what it is.
Okay. I've been looking at the little videos they had on YouTube with this little Caucasian gentleman, David Blaine.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, the magician, David Blaine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he is Hispanic. He's Puerto Rican, from out of Brooklyn. Well, from out of New York.
Okay, now, because he appears to be using some science.
Oh, yeah, definitely appears to be.
Okay. I find it quite interesting. And I know, based on what I'm seeing, it should match the ancient priest Thoth, and a few other characters, including the one that built the Cold Castle.
Right.
Have you ever been down here? Cold Castle?
No. Mm-mm.
Okay. Pretty interesting. I got a sister that lives down there. Once in a while we go down there. It only costs a couple of dollars. Go in and take a look around and see what he did. I tried to give to brothers and sisters that information. But Dr. Walter Williams stopped me and said, boy, you can't be what? I said, okay. I'll hold up off on that.
Okay.
But now, in your opinion, Dr. Bey,
mm-hmm.
putting the whole family together, how early do you think that we should expose the children to our ancient science?
You said how soon?
Yes.
You probably say they probably have to begin at the age of 7.
Okay. And once they what do you think we ought to start with?
I think the mother, father will probably have to start with basic information, how to read, write, arithmetic, so the 3 R's, branch off into, spelling, history, at least story form of history, some information dealing with our plight, dealing with information about historical figures, Nat Turner, Demont Vesey, Gabriel Prosser, Nat Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, dealing with Malcolm X, Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, Prophet Dr.Alim, just dealing with that from that perspective, giving them different theories and information concerning our history, our heritage, at the same time, raising them up in order to appreciate, our history and heritage and the glory in which that it possesses, how we are the original people on the planet Earth. People can say that they are the chosen people, the so-called Jews can say that, but we are the original people on the planet, so how the hell can they be chosen? When we were chosen to be here first, so that's to be a phallus, so just the fact of giving them self-love, self-appreciation, self-worth through our history and heritage and culture is the things in which that we need to do.
Well, I'm looking at this thing. Because I think, and I don't know. I'm born July the 8th. And I've been looking at, I have a habit of looking at the spiritual aspect of things. I pay a closer look at my environment, feel the air, look at the attitude of the people and stuff, and matching that with the astrological aspects of all the stuff I hear. And it is quite amazing a lot of the stuff that I see, and I think some days I'm not supposed to go outside.
Okay.
I look at the moon. I think sometimes I be paying too close attention.
Right.
But I think it's necessary, and I think that this is something that we need to cultivate and take by scientists. Well, we're coming down to the close to the broadcast.
Okay.
What you gonna lay on us, brother?
Check us out at our website, www.dralim.elbey.com. That's DRALIMELBEY. That's dralim.elbey.com. Check us out. Go to the various pages that we have there. We have new products, ancestral herbal teas, which that can help with basically healing it, heal, even in most cases cure, as well as also, we also have herbs in which we have more cleanse, we have worm away, we have chi power. These are some of the best herbs if you want to be able to, if you're fasting and you're trying to get rid of parasites, worms, bacteria, viruses. You will want to take a combination of more cleanse as well as also worm away. Worm away basically kills the parasites, worms, bacteria, and viruses, and more cleanse get it out your body. All right. Chi power. After you do the cleansing, you'll have to be able to revitalize yourself. And chi power has some of the most powerful herbs on the planet. This herbal mixture comes from all over the planet, all over the world. The greatest herbs in which that produces healing are put in here: foti, maca root, ginseng, guadacola, ginkgo biloba, red clover, on and on and on and on. It is phenomenal.
Okay. All right. Well, what are you? What is your closing information? You think our brothers and sisters need to be doing today? What is the best advice that you can give us?
The best advice is basically declare your nationality. Coming to knowledge of self as far as not just from Afrocentric point of view, but continue making that leap into the rabbit hole, because it goes a lot deeper. It goes into etymology, it goes into linguistics, it goes into dictionaries, various ones: Western Merriam Dictionary, Oxford Dictionary, Black's Law Dictionary, Durkheim's Law Dictionary, Bouvier's Law Dictionary. It goes deeper. So just about continue studying yourself. The various books that I made mention of earlier are the best books to begin with. That's it. Appreciate y'all for listening.
Okay. Well, you definitely got to have me over there. On your shit, I would like to bring a little dab of science that I got, and break that down so we can explain it to the people and they can digest it and understand it. And I certainly appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate you too, brother. Thank you.
You're welcome. You got my number 904-303-9061. 303-9061.
Indeed.
And just give me a holler when you're ready.
All right. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate you being here. And good night, my brother.
Good night.
Okay, Mose, we come down to the closing of the broadcast. And we're going to close on out. I've been your host, Tarhaka Amana El-Bey. And until next time, y'all have a good evening.
Today's special is